You think money is about talent. You think it rewards sacrifice. You think if you work hard enough, life will eventually see you. But the brutal truth is simpler than you want it to be. Money rewards whatever you can make people repeat, not whatever you can make people admire. Most people are selling the wrong thing and calling it being productive. They sell their hours, their effort, their suffering, their loyalty to a grind, and then they wonder why they're always one emergency away from collapse. Meanwhile, the wealthy aren't geniuses in the way movies want you to believe. They're not luckier either. They just understand the hidden currency behind every transaction: repetition, dependency, and system-level leverage. Welcome back to the hidden self, where we stop pretending and start diagnosing the real mechanism underneath your life. Today, we're going to talk about why some people cash out in minutes while others scrape pennies for years. Why the same day, the same market, the same global economy can produce completely different outcomes. And why the most dangerous lie you tell yourself is that you're working hard as if effort were a universal payment token. Here is the map. Everyone is selling something, even when you're not an entrepreneur. A child sells a cry to get milk. A worker sells time to get wages. A CEO sells a vision to attract capital. The difference is not what you sell on the surface. The difference is what you bring to the exchange table that the market is actually willing to pay for over and over again. The market doesn't pay for pain. It pays for impact and for scarcity and for the ability to remain indispensable. So let's go to the bottom, where most people live and call it normal. Time is cheap, you are not. In survival economies, time is the most abundant resource on Earth. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. That's why time is the cheapest thing you can sell. If your income depends on your body clock, your calendar, your physical capacity to show up and perform, you are selling a product with infinite supply. And no matter how noble you feel about your job, the market will price you accordingly. Think about a nurse on a night shift. She sells 8 hours of concentration and emotional labor, and she thinks her professionalism is the differentiator. But if she can be replaced by the next person, or if her hours can be covered by staffing agencies, then what she really sells is still time. Time that has no accumulation, no resale value, no compounding unless it becomes something else. Now think about the other side. A person who owns a system that schedules nurses, optimizes staffing, reduces risk, and standardizes outcomes. That person might not work harder, they might do far less emotional labor, but they sell a solution to a recurring problem. Their product has a different structure. It is not hours traded for cash. It is dependency engineered into an operating model. Here is the psychological trap. When you sell time, you also sell your future. You don't just cash out your present. You trade away the hours that could have been invested in building leverage. You become a machine that eats its own potential. And the worst part is what happens when you stop. When you sell time, your income stops the moment you stop. No matter how skilled you are, if your wealth is trapped in your body, then your wealth has a shutdown switch. Burnout isn't just a feeling, it's an economic event. It's the failure of a business model inside your own life. People hate hearing this because it sounds like blame. It isn't blame, it's math. If your health collapses, your output collapses. If your physical stamina drops, your earning power drops. If you can't be available, the market moves on. The hidden self here is this. Many of you aren't afraid of working. You're afraid of not being able to work, so you keep choosing the cage. You keep calling it stability. But stability that depends on your health is a fragile fantasy. It's like building your house on a moving boat and insisting it's solid land because it hasn't sunk yet. Now climb one step. This is where people graduate and still stay trapped. Skills are valuable, but they still cap you. When you sell a skill, the market pays more than it pays for raw time. A doctor, an engineer, a specialist, a technician with years of training can command a higher rate because the ability to do their job can be scarcer than unskilled labor. But skill is still bounded by your body. You can't perform infinite surgeries. You can't consult 1,000 clients in 1 hour. You can't review every contract personally and still call it sustainable. You're limited by your capacity, your attention, your physical constraints. Your wealth still depends on what you can personally process. That's why skill-based businesses eventually experience a ceiling. You can grow, but you grow inside a physical limit. And when the limit hits, people do what they always do. They push harder, they extend hours, they take fewer breaks, they answer messages late at night. They sacrifice their sleep like it's a tax they can afford. But skill-based profit is still fragile because it is not compounding. It doesn't scale like ownership, it scales like strain. Let me tell you a micro story that will hit uncomfortably close for some of you. Imagine a high-performing web designer who charges premium rates. Clients adore them. They get referrals. Everything seems to be working. Then one year the designer has a crisis. Maybe a parent falls ill. Maybe burnout hits. Maybe anxiety makes it hard to concentrate. Suddenly, they cannot deliver as quickly. What happens? The calendar slows, the invoices slow, the cash flow dips. The designer's life starts shrinking again because their identity and income are still welded together. They're not selling something that continues to work when they are offline. They're selling their capability, and capability is still tethered to the human. This is where the hidden self becomes obvious. You might not even want freedom. You might want recognition through performance. You might want to feel like you are valuable because you are needed. That can be a beautiful thing and also a trap. It creates dependence on demand, and it makes you emotionally attached to your own usefulness. The wealthy don't get paid because they are busy. They get paid because they are positioned. Which brings us to the real top tier, not the tier of titles, the tier of what you're actually selling. The rich sell solutions that keep pulling. There's a class of business that doesn't primarily sell labor or skill. They sell a solution that customers crave so much that the market becomes an addiction loop. They sell the kind of outcome people pursue with obsession, not because it's rational, but because it touches fear, identity, and longing. These people don't build wealth by being hard workers. They build wealth by being system builders. They create machines that generate money while the owner sleeps. And here's the uncomfortable detail. Those machines are designed to reduce the buyer's thinking. They turn choices into habits and habits into routine purchases. Imagine water. The poor carry water. They rent their backs out to the shortage, but the owner builds the pipeline. They don't walk, they create infrastructure. And most of you are still carrying water. You carry it in the form of selling monthly invoices. You carry it in the form of needing constant new leads. You carry it in the form of fresh marketing that resets every season. Every month you have to find the customer again, like hunting, like the old fear. Where will the next payment come from? The real wealthy are not hunting, they are farming. Their customers come back because their product has become part of the customer's rhythm. That rhythm is what we need to talk about next because it's the spine of durable wealth. Repetition. The law that decides who stays rich, frequency. You want to know why some family businesses last for generations while others die within a year? It's not because the products are magical, it's because the purchase is frequent and predictable. You don't need brilliance if the customer is forced by necessity or trained by habit to buy again and again. Let's break this down psychologically. There are two types of demand. The first is occasional demand. It's driven by big events. Marriage, renovation, new devices, weddings, lottery-level luck. The second is survival demand and habit demand. It's driven by the body, by routines, by daily needs, by fear that never fully disappears. If you sell occasional demand, you are dependent on rare moments. You have to convince strangers to make a decision with higher emotional risk. The buyer asks, "Why now? Why you? Why this model? Why should I commit?" Then they postpone because they can. Your sales are a hostage negotiation with uncertainty. If you sell survival or habit demand, you are dependent on something else entirely. Recurrence. Food doesn't stop. Hygiene doesn't stop. Cleaning doesn't stop. People must function, and their function requires consumption. This is why industries like fast-moving consumer goods can survive economic shocks. When money is tight, people cut luxury first. They delay vacations. They postpone new furniture. They keep their core habits running. Their stomach still needs to eat. Their face still needs to be washed. Their body still needs to be cared for. Their fear still needs soothing. This is also why certain business models survive political chaos, inflation, and recessions. Not because they are good for society, they are good at attaching to the loops of human existence. Now let's zoom into the hidden mechanism. The best business isn't necessarily selling the product, it's selling the continuation of identity. In personal care and cosmetics, The product is a container for a promise. A woman buys a cream, but the real purchase is relief from the terror of aging and ugliness. She doesn't want water or chemicals. She wants to feel safe. She wants to believe she can control time. So when the cream makes her skin look better or feel better, she doesn't just use it once. She becomes trained by the result. She becomes psychologically locked into the routine because stopping would mean facing the fear again. In this model, loyalty isn't just loyalty, it's forced emotional dependency. And dependency is where money multiplies. Now think about toothpaste. Think about deodorant. Think about shampoo. You can skip a concert. You can skip a fancy dinner. But you cannot skip hygiene without paying an emotional and social price. The buyer might pretend they are free, but their nervous system and social reality pull them back. This is why frequency is power. If your customer buys daily, your cash flow is a river. If your customer buys once every 10 years, you live like a hunter, and your survival depends on constant expense. Marketing becomes your oxygen when you're hunting. You can't breathe without paying. You pay to acquire, you pay to remind, you pay to persuade, and most of your effort goes to the fatigue of convincing strangers again and again. Now let's contrast a farmer and a nomad. A farmer sows seeds, then harvests repeatedly. A nomad needs to find new land constantly. Farming requires patience and systems. Nomad life is adrenaline and stress. Most aspiring entrepreneurs romanticize the hunter because it feels like growth. They chase big-ticket sales, they build brands around drama, they love the spotlight because it gives them a sense of significance. But big-ticket sales are often occasional, and occasional means your business is a roller coaster. If you want stable wealth, you need stable repetition. You need the buyer to return without you begging. You need the purchase to be structurally easier than not purchasing. And if you can't get frequency, you try to create it through subscription, replenishment cycles, membership models, maintenance plans, or bundles that embed your offer into a longer system. But now we go darker, because repetition alone doesn't guarantee virtue. It can be exploitation disguised as convenience. So here's the uncomfortable question. What are you building into people's habits? Luxury is a mask. Events are a trap. Let's talk about the industries that look glamorous. The sales of diamonds, supercars, luxury real estate, expensive electronics, high-end furniture. In Hollywood and shiny seminars, the fantasy is always the same. You meet a rich client, you close a deal worth millions, you post the photos, you feel like a wolf. But step out of the theater and look at the business model. Most of those luxury transactions are one-time events. Someone buys once because they buy with a big commitment and a big emotional risk. They need time to decide, they need time to justify. And after the purchase, the market is quiet for years. That silence is where your cash flow bleeds out. You have to keep searching for the next client before you starve. Your success might actually be a countdown. Each deal is not a victory lap, it's a deposit in a bank that you must refill continuously by spending on advertising, showrooms, sales teams, and constant persuasion. So what looks like luxury often hides panic. Here's a micro story that many salespeople know privately. A seller of premium home appliances feels proud because their margins look high. They calculate profit per sale. They feel wealthy on paper. Then the quarter ends and sales slow down. They go quiet. Suddenly they need campaigns, they need discounts, they need financing offers, they need to lower the price to get an impatient buyer. The margin that looked huge turns into a survival illusion once you include the cost of acquiring the next buyer. Meanwhile, the humble business that sells something small repeatedly can be calm. They don't need cinematic closings. They rely on replenishment cycles. Their profit isn't dramatic, it's steady. That steadiness makes them dangerous because they don't experience the same desperation. Desperation creates bad decisions. Bad decisions kill businesses. That's why many flashy entrepreneurs burn out, sell off their assets, or collapse when the market cools. Now take this truth personally. You probably do this in your life too. You chase big wins because they feel like proof. Then you panic when the big win doesn't repeat immediately. You treat your income like a roulette wheel. You treat your identity like it depends on applause. The hidden self wants you to believe that being extraordinary will save you from repetition. But extraordinary without repetition is just a beautiful story you tell yourself right before you run out of money. If you want to rise, you need to stop worshiping the spotlight and start building the machine. And the machine, in the end, is repeatable value, small value, repeated many times. The biggest confusion beginners have is thinking money comes from complexity. They think expensive products are the safest route. They think unique, exclusive, hard-to-copy offerings create lasting wealth. Complexity feels intellectual. It feels sophisticated. It feels like status. But the market often punishes complexity because complexity requires education. It demands that you spend time explaining, persuading, and convincing buyers that they are missing something. That educational cost drains your energy and your budget. You become a teacher. Your revenue becomes dependent on your ability to translate complexity into desire. If you have to do an exhausting sales pitch just to justify the product, you are not selling a necessity. You are selling a concept, and concepts are fragile. The most powerful businesses often sell small items people already need. People already understand the function. They don't require a long justification. They need it again next week, next month, next day. So your job becomes simpler. You don't need to invent belief from scratch. You just need to make buying easier, safer, more satisfying, more reliable, or more aligned with taste and identity. This is why small daily spend can beat occasional huge spend. If someone spends a little every day, you get compounding. If someone buys one big item once and disappears, you get a void you must fill with expensive acquisition. Your entire financial destiny can be decided by one question you never ask honestly. How many times will the customer need this? In how many days or weeks will they naturally crave it again? Now connect this to the era we're in. In the age of AI and automation, your hard work and manual skill are getting commoditized, not because machines hate you, but because machines can outperform you on execution speed and consistency. So, the market is shifting the value toward orchestration, trust building, and system design. If you're selling on social media, you might think your value is your ability to demonstrate a product. But the market increasingly cares about what you can reliably produce and what you can cultivate: community trust, repeat engagement, and predictable conversion. When people buy from you repeatedly, you become a node in their routine. You stop being a laborer selling hours. You become an interface that directs demand. This is psychological power, not just business power. It means you influence the buyer's mental pathway. You reduce their friction. You become familiar. You become safe. And safety reduces the need for deep thinking, which increases frequency. That's why influencer businesses can scale faster than local ones. Not because the influencer is magical, but because the influencer trains attention. They create a habitual attention cycle. Attention is the precondition of conversion. And if your audience buys repeatedly, your business becomes less like a hunt and more like a current. Now let's bring it home, because you might be listening and thinking, okay, so what should I do? But before you ask for tactics, you need diagnosis. The hidden self is usually not the business idea. It's the emotional reason you keep choosing the same doomed structure. Most people cling to one-time sales because they secretly want control without commitment. One-time sales let you feel powerful. You close a deal and then you disappear. You avoid the boring responsibility of long-term relationship. You avoid the discomfort of maintaining value and support. You avoid the anxiety of being measured continuously. You want the excitement without the discipline. But wealth is discipline with repetition, not excitement. Excitement ends, repetition compounds. So here's what you should do, and it won't be flattering because it requires honesty. First, stop asking whether you are working hard enough. That question is a coping mechanism. It protects you from the deeper question: are you creating something customers will return to naturally? Are you building a machine, or are you just renting your time? Second, stop selling your identity as your brand. Your identity will get burned out. Your value will be replaced. Instead, build a system around the outcome people want again and again. If your offering cannot survive you being tired, sick, or offline, it's not leverage, it's a job. Third, don't chase novelty as if it were freedom. Novelty is often a sign you're trying to escape accountability. You keep inventing something new because you don't want to stay with a strategy long enough for frequency to appear. Most people never give their business model enough time to become a habit for the customer. They keep switching like gamblers. But markets reward persistence of a repeatable structure, not constant reinvention. Fourth, watch your own nervous system. Where do you feel the urge to close big and disappear? That urge is telling you that you fear ongoing responsibility. You fear that if you stay, people might judge you. You fear that if you keep delivering, you might not feel special anymore. But special is not how money works. Money works by consistency of value delivered in a cycle. Now let's end with the darkest honest takeaway, because you deserve the truth that hurts enough to change you. Your life has been priced like a commodity because you have been offering the market commodity level value. If you sell time, you are priced like everyone else. If you sell skill, you are priced like a limited machine. If you sell occasional events, you are priced like a temporary opportunity. Your bank account is reflecting the structure you keep choosing, not your personal worth. The rise you want does not begin with motivation. It begins with redesigning what you exchange. It begins with building repetition into the relationship between you and the buyer. It begins with creating a pipeline, a system, a routine, a habit, a dependency that helps them function without constantly renegotiating trust. So here's your call to action. Tonight, before you sleep, write one sentence that you cannot dodge. What do I sell that people need to repeat, and how often? Not what I wish they would buy, not what I want to be known for, not what sounds impressive. Then follow it with a second sentence. What system could I build so that the purchase continues even when I'm not actively performing? You don't need a new personality. You need a new exchange. Get out of the trap of carrying water. Build the pipeline. And if you feel angry reading this, good. Anger is your nervous system recognizing a truth you've been avoiding. Don't waste it. Use it to stop selling yourself in small, exhausted pieces. Start building something that runs on frequency, because that is the only kind of power that doesn't disappear the moment you look away. Stand up, redesign the deal,